So nice to be here, to also be the last speaker. And I'm really sorry I'm not from Estonia. But I hope you give me some credit anyway. I live in Stockholm, and I run a big design agency called EY Doberman. We're about 100 people, and we're also part of EY. And fun fact, EY actually has the world's largest design agency. We're about 2,000 people that we're part of. But that's not what we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about a magazine today. So what's going on here? Normally, we're helping companies through very tricky situations with digital transformation, creating new brands, new experiences, taking new leaps. But now we're launching a journal in paper and print on the topic of Audacity. Why? Well, it's a journal where we have visited people and places far beyond our own work, including people doing jewelry, not scents, but next edition will be scents, skis, beer, spacesuits, all at the intersection of design and business to learn what's the next frontiers in our field. And we have visited many unexpected fields. And why? Well, we have a history to helping organizations taking the next leaps. And it's in our very DNA to challenge, explore, and invite people. And please, I encourage you as well to be part of this conversation to understand the world around us. Because I think we have to. I mean, I see the themes of all of you talking here today. It's like we need to zoom out. And I think it's our responsibility as service designers or designers to do that. That's how we reinvent ourselves as well. I would say it's actually business critical to do that, to step outside your own field. And we, at Doberman, we do this in different ways. We started, for example, Sally is our own future lab that looks at very radical futures. And why a future lab? Well, we have a very, very strong belief with all the enormous sort of global crises that I'm not going to mention, but you all know what they are. We are facing an even bigger, more dangerous crisis, our very lack of imagination. The fact that we can't imagine another future than we see today, I think is super important, and this is why we started this lab. Because we need stories. And in Sally, we focus on different bets and explore alternative future stories. Here, what you see is their economy, and it's a provocation on an alternative economic system. We ask questions like, can we measure what matters? Can we reflect on the true cost? How would it look like if we built a resilient economy? But we also explore and reinvent ourselves by opening at the design bar. To understand current culture sentiments, we invite people who like your cafe idea. We had the same thing. So we have a design bar that we run in Stockholm, and you're all very welcome. When we meet new people, we understand culture, we understand new behaviors. And of course, we have to, because we are also teaching tech, and we are working with tech every day. Here's just one project that we are currently running called the DARA project, where we, of course, explore AI technology and agentic AI and how to apply it. But I think most importantly, why we're also exploring it internally, is to how we can also critique it. And now the journal on the topic of Audacity. Why? I think to make sense of the why, I believe we need this. And I'll take help from the Hartmann Rosa. He's a German sociologist and a philosopher, exploring our society, its consequences, and what we need as humans. And he argues The modern society is defined by acceleration, and I'm sure you all feel it. I feel it. He talks of technological acceleration, and this is no news to you. We've been talking about it all day, and you were talking about it just before. AI models and tools that were at the forefront some months ago are already old news. Then there is the social acceleration, the part of change in how we form relationships and communicate, what we value as a society, and how we define a job or a career today compared to how the next generation might. And finally, we have the acceleration of life itself. We're getting more and more tools and services to make our lives easier and more efficient, but still as a society, we are more stressed and distracted than ever. And Rosa focuses on people and society, but I recognize this within businesses too. I talk with a lot of business leaders on an everyday basis, and this acceleration is really stressful. So what are the consequences? When everything accelerates like this, Rosa says we end up on a slipping slope. Running on a slipping slope means having to speed up just to stay in the same spot. And what is it that gets destroyed first are some real fundamental qualities that we've been talking about today. It's curiosity, it's dialogue. Peter was talking about, have you actually practiced dialogue? It's creativity and the ability to make a bold call. And we run, but we're just stuck. And then what organizations do, and us, when we run like this, because we just are so fast, we often turn to control on reducing these uncertainties. In businesses, there might be building approval layers, complex governance structures, and an overwhelming amount of metrics. I'm not sure if you recognize yourselves. Rationalizing away the possibility of a surprise, but also responding to a new or unknown environment and adapting in this very uncertain world. The feeling of acceleration not keeping up makes us narrow and focused to optimize. We get sort of a tunnel vision. We turn to what we know, reviewing and refining into safety. And it's very human behavior to do that. We evaluate, pilot, and iterate new ideas until the moment passes. And we start to go into defend mode, protecting us from competitive moves rather than taking a leap or a turn, guided by the company's vision or conviction. Even if we know that the company who comes out the strongest don't tend to be the ones to defend the hardest. But we still do it because we run so fast. So we're running, but at the same time, the organizations feel very slow. And we're running without really moving forward or doing something radically new. So to break away from this acceleration and its slippery slope, Rosa talks about the need of resonance. And I love that word. Resonance means staying curious and connected to the world, looking out, meeting people, looking at the eyes, listening, learning, and finding what's meaningful. And that's why we forced ourselves to step outside our normal world, visiting some unexpected places, meeting remarkable people, listening and learning. So I thought I give you a few extracts from the magazine. And we founded the journal. It's in paper and print for people to flick through as they want, but preferable at a very, very slow pace. In this first journal, we went to look for Audacity, and I really love that word. Bold, brave. In Swedish, you say djärvhet, which I love the word, if anyone understands that Swedish word. because I don't think the world needs any more running in the same spot. It needs bravery, it needs belief, and its willingness to stand your ground and having the courage to be different. And it's been so inspiring to travel and interview all these people, because there are so many amazing people out there, and I'm sure you are one of them, that live in the intersection of design and business, have very successful companies doing so. But I pulled together 5 different perspectives of Audacity that I believe businesses need more of today, and hopefully some can inspire you. Audacity perspective number 1. Please go somewhere you have no reason to be. The best ideas really come from searching inside what we already know. They come from collisions from different worlds and places you otherwise don't think you should go to. We met with Nima, the founder of Nova Space, super cool guy, and a company developing next-generation spacesuits out of Oslo in Norway. It's a quite small-sized company compared to NASA, but with a very, very big ambition becoming a European alternative in an unpredictable geographical landscape. They're on a mission to let humans be more humans in space, not forcing people to adapt to the suit and technology, but rather the other way around. And what I love about him and the company is how they approach this. Among other partners, they work with the Royal College of Art, studying dance and choreography to map out how to best move on the moon. I think that's so beautiful. They want to learn from how a dancer moves, turn, reduce gravity as an advantage. So astronauts can use less energy and lower the risk of falling. And Nima explains, suddenly dance and choreography become an important part of space travel. This is Lisette. She's the Director of Sustainability and Design at Volvo Cars. I don't know if you know about Volvo, but if you know something about Sweden, you probably know that company. She manages to bring this mindset into a very large corporation, taking inspiration from different places. She explains how her team spends a lot of time studying the past to envision the future for Volvo, and how they go out in the field as often as they can. They even have a little garden outside their office, actually. It's so cute. This might be also heading out to the archipelago, or surrounding nature, or visiting a traditional furniture maker to really understand true craftsmanship. All this to continuously evolve what Scandinavian design means for Volvo. Good example of stepping outside to be inspired. Perspective number 2 then. Please give rebels a space. I think you have talked a little bit about rebels already today, but not used the words, but this is one of the favorites for me. It's so important to having people that are afraid of friction or challenging the status quo. People who might take the unexpected path to make things happen. Please encourage that in your organization, or maybe you are some of them in your organization. Make sure you get someone that got your back and saying, keep being rebel. A quote from Johan from the Swedish tax agency, which you think, maybe it's not the most sort of like radical organization. And I'm super impressed by the tax authorities' digital journey in Scandinavia, or in Sweden. They were also recently awarded the best implementation of AI in an organization. And that is not possible in this type of organization if you don't have rebels or give space for rebels. Room for different opinions and an openness to challenge. On the same theme, but in a very different context, we introduced this really inspiring company we have to travel to Bergen in Norway, in the very, very north of Norway, meeting Christina and the textile collective Veft. They specialize in artistic digital weaving. Once a month, they travel to an industrial factory in Innvik to produce their work. This factory produces 1,500 meters of fabric every day. So you can imagine efficiency rules here. And every weaving loom is on a very tight schedule. Until Veft shows up here, breaking all the structure. They might stop a loom for hours to rethink a plan, or because they see they need a 6th shade of blue that isn't in stock. It's a finely tuned clock, and we bring creative chaos. At the beginning, the technicians at the factory used to get really, really angry and frustrated. There was too much disruption, they couldn't see what was in it for them. But with time, Christina got much better at making people at the factory see the value. And this is an important aspect of being a rebel. If you want to bring people along, you need to learn how to communicate the value and the vision. So Veft started showing the others at the factory what they were part of creating. They showed photos of the finished pieces. Here you see some beautiful hangings in museums and schools across Norway, creating a sense of pride, not only in the factory, but also in the whole Innvik community. It also became clear how Veft helped push the factory's development, introducing new materials, new techniques that benefited the factory as a whole. And this factory creates fabrics for other companies globally. So it's a very sort of tuned factory for fabric. And I think it's a good example of when you allow the rebels to be rebels, but you can influence the other mother organization. And how beautiful. It's like a piece of art, that thing, I think. And we see similar patterns, of course, in big companies, and I think some of you have talked about it when they get it right. ICA X here is also a big retailer, but in Sweden. And ICA X is their innovation unit, whose very purpose is to be a rebel. And they are on a mission to bring future batch much closer to the ICA retailer. And they're also an ecosystem of banks and retailers and pharmacies. But being a rebel comes with friction. But just as the factory workers in Innvik, the wider ICA organization has now come to expect it and also understand its value. This organization existed for 10 years. I see at the moment a trend where a lot of these X divisions are closing down. But this still exists because it has a real value. And this here is Emma. She's definitely a rebel. You can see it in her eyes, I think. And she explains that our ambition isn't to avoid friction, but to be able to stay in it, to be comfortable there. And that's so hard, isn't it? Because you just want things to be smooth all the time. Easier said than done, I think, but so important, both if you're a rebel or helping giving space to them, to actually stay in that sort of like, nah. And the rebel methods, I think, are really impressive at ICAX. I learned so much working with them. Together, we have used extreme methodology. And for you, most in here probably know all this. It's a quite sort of applied design thinking methodology. But they really gutsy there to test new products and services in the market really fast and very openly and transparently before even something is out. They are open that they're testing it. And here you see is something called ICA to go. It's one of the very first Nordic stores that are unmanned. And they tested it with a real pilot in like a few months. Became so successful, so they now have rolled it out in the whole Sweden. it was also very timely that COVID hit, and they needed something like this, so we sort of helped them to roll it out. ICA Pronto is another really good example, a competition to Foodora, where they also went from idea out in the market quite quickly by experimentation very early. Fun fact with this one is that they decided also to close down this venture because it didn't meet their sustainability KPIs, even if it financially was profitable. I think that's bold. Perspective number 3, are you still with me, or? Yeah? Make belief a competitive advantage. This one is about companies having a clear vision and the commitment to stand by it. That really takes guts and courage. I know everyone wants to say they have belief and they have a vision, but to stand by it, you know, when it becomes a little bit like, it's quite hard. It takes a lot of audacity, especially when the market keeps changing around you. We met Anna Hout, a person I had the privilege to work with. She's an investment director at one of the big Nordic industrial funds. She also founded a company called Hövding. It was like a helmet company, a bicycle brand. As well as being a champion of the importance of a design to drive business, she also champions long-term vision, strong beliefs and commitments, where climate crisis is one of her absolute topic of her agenda. As climate conditions worsen with rising temperatures, storms and biodiversity loss, we will inevitably have to engage more deeply and find solutions. It requires long-term commitment, perseverance, and patience. Anna expresses how founders and companies must stay true to their values, otherwise she wouldn't invest, and strive for something greater. If they do, short-term fluctuations actually can be justified. This belief also comes through really strongly with Lisette, who I talked about before, who you met before. Volvo is nearly 100 years old and operating in a quite turbulent market. But Lisette emphasizes the importance to take the longer-term view, which in their world means having the courage to stay committed to electrification, even when the market is challenging. In uncertain times, people look for stability and integrity. Do you remember the slippery slope? Something that can be easy to forget. Another area where organizations will need integrity and staying true to the beliefs is, of course, the topic AI. Where and how to leverage it and where not. Henrik Thornberg we met here. He works at the Swedish radio. He describes how they lean into AI, of course, they have to, making use of all the new technological possibilities, but they are also clear on where they draw the line. And I think this is a very important point. I mean, this quote might sound obvious now, but will probably not be in a couple of years or maybe even months. This is a stance that helps reinforce the belief and purpose of public service in a very changing, rapid media landscape. You could argue against this quote, but they have come out publicly to say this is their stance with AI. I also think Anthropic is a good example of making belief a competitive advantage. Of course, it's been quite debated lately. And I love the key messaging for the project Glasswing, which is the software for cybersecurity, where they say, we built it, but restricting access because it's dangerous. They even went so far and put up guardrails when Pentagon wanted to use the software, so Pentagon refused to actually sign the government contract. I'm sure you saw this in the media. And this became one of the biggest AI policy wars in media so far, 2026. And then, of course, OpenAI, they signed the contract, but what happened with Anthropic is that I think a lot of people got their eyes for them, and a lot of developers want to work there now, and there's almost like a bit of a cult following around this company, because they dare to actually put down their foot and said, no, we're not going to sign this contract if the government is using our technology in this way. And also think it's quite sweet that they have also hired a philosopher, an in-house philosopher that's trained Claude with morals. I think these are all good examples of where you have made belief your competitive advantage. All right, perspective number 4, so we've been hearing it before. Let experiments do the arguing. Bold ideas risk dying in approval layers. We all know it. And we also see investments going into wrong areas. The solution is seldom more additional slides or another meeting, but rather, let's run our experiment. And to have processes for that, and actually, we see a thread from a lot of people we interviewed running these businesses. This is like a very common thread. And I'm hearing, you've been talking about it today as well. Here I'm bringing back Emma from ICA. She's the queen of experiments. She describes the natural instinct in mature industries is to preserve what works, so it becomes quite conservative, rather than building what comes next. At ICA X, want to make sure ICA prosper for another 100 years. That's her mission. Her team tries 60 to 80 experiments every year, and they kill about 80–90%. Giving confidence to truly invest in the ideas to then survive. And of course, we'll probably see much more of these ideas now with AI and agentic AI. But again, I think to also spend time on the 20% that actually creates value, I think it's our most important task going forward. This way of using experiments to shift from theory to evidence comes through strongly in many of our interviews. Especially so in a section in the journal called the Million User Club, where we spend time with some great digital product leaders at large organizations. In these interviews, the theme of letting experiments do the arguing was evidence throughout. We met with head of design and product at SC, which is the government or the rail company, Vips, the Swedish radio, tax authority, banks. Many talk of moving fast to experiments as the preferred way to help the business move it forward. There is also preference of launching live in the product, learning from real users. But it takes guts to move to launch before you're really ready. And it's not always easy to get the organization to move with you. The cultural side of experimentation is often more critical than the technical, actually. Max here, who we also interviewed, great guy, head of design at Vips, the Norwegian equivalent to Swish, one of Norden's most loved brands. He talks about culture as one of the things he appreciates the most with his company. That if you want to try something new, you're allowed to do so. You can. It's common practice for everyone, for people to experiment, share what they learn, and help each other to move forward. It's a sort of like a culture inside to say, yeah, try. Let's move it forward. So letting experiments do the arguing to help each other and the business move forward is absolutely essential. I just wanted to bring this example as well. We worked with Lego, and I think they are also a really, really good example of a company letting experiments do the arguing. Here we led a team through an experiment-driven product and discovery approach to find a new digital service around learning for children. And we identified what type of digital experiences and dynamics would most efficiently drive both engagement and learning among kids. You see there we have some testing going on. And here are some examples of how creation session directly informed our prototypes, like science challenges, inviting players to define who eats who in the food chain, or mix some powerful potions. The experiments also tested what type of play and learning experiences kids naturally wanted to contribute to. And the result ended up in 3 distinct digital business opportunities for Lego that informed then their Lego buying strategy. And as a result, they bought a big company based on that. So please, I encourage you, let the experiments do the arguing. My final perspective on Audacity, maybe the most important one: trust yourself. This is something that I believe will become more important for every day. As we're moving into an era where AI can perform more and more tasks, there is a real risk of over-reliance, of losing ourselves and the trust in our own capabilities, when in fact it will be critical to navigate in this new world with strong judgment. The ability to know from experience, from instinct, from reading the room, and from years of paying attention what the right call is. So please stand up. You can close your eye if you want. But take a moment to reflect. In what situation are you in right now? Or do you have a challenge you're in? If you actually went deep inside you and trusted yourself with your experience and where you come from, what is your answer? Nice, you can sit down. I cannot agree more with Anna on this. There are moments when one simply knows this is how it must be. That intuition should not be underestimated. Sometimes when we feel lost in this world of acceleration, all we need to do is stop a bit, zoom out, and trust our own judgment. Nima, who you met earlier before, I think is a perfect testimony of this underlying confidence. He says like this. I love this actually. When I meet resistance, I often think, well, they don't have the full picture. They don't know our plan. The more someone tells him it's impossible, the more he wants to prove them wrong. Keep that with you. Another leader who really embodies this is Carl Pei. Do you know the company Nothing? He's on the front cover of the journal. At the age of 24, he founded the Chinese mobile phone company called OnePlus, to later fund Nothing, which is a quite big company now. When we met him, he was in a newly opened London headquarters, and he just raised over $450 million and reached a $1.3 billion valuation. They're a company on a mission to disrupt and democratize mobile phone and the tech industry. That's pretty gutsy. And you see him often like this, eating a bite of the apple in social media, which I love. And there is no doubt that Carl has a lot of guts and confidence. But what's important with this perspective of Audacity is that trusting yourself is not the same as never changing your mind. It's about trusting yourself to make a call and to try, knowing that if you tried and failed, there is value in that too. And I think it describes it like this. For me personally, the periods of the most psychological pain have been the most rewarding in terms of growth and learning. He describes that he failed a lot during his 15 years as an entrepreneur, which has been so painful but super valuable. And he remains confident with a strong trust in himself. Last company I bring up from the magazine is 1000 Skis that I'll introduce you to. And a great testament to the power of trusting yourself. They managed to build a whole cult following around their ski, mainly focusing on putting a lot of craft and love to creating the best skiing experience. So they make skis, but it's all about the experience around it. But also going against all the logics of the new season and new ski industry. They only use the color red for the skis every time. Or in their own words, as they launched the last collection, it's going to be red again. So here they are, 5 perspectives of Audacity. Please go somewhere you have no reason to be. Give space to the rebels. Make belief a competitive advantage. And let the experiments do the arguing. And please trust yourself, because you have it in you. Pick the ones that resonate with you. And most importantly, I put some magazines out there. You can also order it online if you want to. I hope you can read it, and please do it at a slow pace. Anything that makes us step away from accelerating on this slipping slope. And for God's sake, I really hope you bring some audacity into the world.
First, the Lord created the world. Then he created these. And then he created Audacity magazine.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for sharing these stories with us. Now, Rebels, Maria was telling us how service designers are already considered fairly kind of
Rebels.
The rebels carrying Macs and whatnot, sort of being different from the others. We don't suffer from that too much, but this being in places where you shouldn't be. Well, what would you say? You know, where would we recommend the service designers go? I know Indrek in the previous presentation was saying you should go and learn about agents and all that, but looking at these many examples, maybe you have a different suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, definitely don't go to design, I would say. I like what you, Maria, is doing. You are having what, master in tech? Is that right? No? You are studying technology. That's one space to go. But I mean, learn new skills. Go somewhere else. I wouldn't say go and try to learn agentic AI only. Go into nature, learn how to play a new instrument, or actually go and network in industries that you actually don't find yourself usually to find new perspectives.
Okay, what is your boldest and most rebel thing you have done?
What's my what?
What is your own most boldest and most rebel thing you have done?
Oh my God. I don't know.
Limited professionally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do a lot of other things on the side. Yes, okay. Thank you. I'm a quite open person, and you often share. I think running this type of company in a very corporate structure is probably one of the boldest moves I have done, and still have the resilience to sort of stand for something and don't give in. I actually have a lot of pleasure from it, but it's, yeah, that's probably my boldest move so far.
That's very good to hear. Yeah. Thank you. And don't give up.
Thank you.
Thank you.